day, fine sir. Look, I've had to deal with a lot of angry people in my life being a doctor, and sometimes just in life. I'm trying to vlog. Great, okay. So we're making that noise. As a result, I think I've figured out how to get on the good side of an angry person. And we might even go as far to say, make them your best friend. So let's get into it. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I rarely piss anybody off in real life because I just don't like doing it. I don't like confrontation. I don't know why I said IRL. I just don't like pissing anybody off in life. So I do try to avoid it, I'll be honest. But unfortunately, sometimes it's inevitable. And the other day it happened. So I'm gonna tell you 2 stories in this vlog of 2 very angry people that have burnt themselves in my mind. They have been that pissed off. Or sometimes not me. Well, let's go. I think the first thing to tackling any angry person is trying to figure out why they're angry. Most of the time people are scared or they're pissed off. You also have to determine, is it you that's pissed them off? Or has somebody else or something? Now, working as a doctor, I've had to deal with a lot of pissed off people. A lot of them are scared, a lot of them are in pain. So if you can get rid of any of those 2 issues, then you're on the right track to start with. Now, many of you are not doctors, so the more relevant one is that you or somebody else has probably pissed that person off. Out in the garden. And to be honest, because they're angry, they will almost definitely let you know who or what or why they are annoyed and who they are annoyed by. Come on! Someone fell over. Oh, you're so wet. Not loving. He's always worried that he's gonna fall, but oh, it's okay. There we go. There's one thing that is going to piss off an angry person more than anything, and that is to argue back with them. The way that you give them ammunition, or even more anger, is just to argue with them or to disagree. Now, you may disagree with what they're saying, but it doesn't diffuse the situation. And if you want them to calm down in that moment, you agree with them, you apologise if it's your fault, or there's another method which we'll talk about in a bit. Okay, let's start off by telling you the first situation that I had to deal with. Not the first ever situation, the first story that I'm talking about. Now, this was a man who was about 40 or 50. He fell through his garden shed roof or something, like a barn roof, landed on the floor and basically broke his sternum, the breastbone. It's a really high impact injury. It's very painful. I think he broke some ribs along the way. Anyway, man should have stayed in hospital, but man was very angry and did not want to. Now, what pissed him off more was not me, thankfully. One, the system, the hospital system, really annoyed him because everything's so slow. He didn't want to be there. He was in pain. He was pissed off. Next, somebody came along. Guys, if you haven't subscribed already, really self-improvement, but it's fun. Mainly I'm the fun. And just pissed him off more, and I kind of witnessed it. So basically, the guy then started, this other guy, doctor, started asking him whether he had a drug addiction. It was so unhelpful, and this guy who was clearly already angry just got more and more pissed off. Anyway, then I picked up the pieces, and although I don't think you should apologise for other people's behaviour, I think trying to get on some kind of common ground with that person is going to make them more receptive to you, and just be like, look, I'm sorry about this and this and this, and just agree with them. If they got pissed off by that, say, yeah, I can see why you're annoyed. Doesn't mean you agree, okay? There's a difference. Acknowledging that they're pissed off and agreeing with the situation are 2 different things. So there was something that I did to diffuse this situation, because this man just shouting at me in the middle of A&E, and I was like, I'm done with this. There was one thing that I did, but we'll get to it in a bit. I think there are a few things that you can do that... Blueberries are so big. Ooh, punchy. There are a few things that you can do to diffuse any situation, or these are just general life, human relationship skills, okay? Find out somebody's name and find some common ground. Now for this guy, I can't remember his name, but I did know it. It helps when you're a doctor because you've got their notes. In the second story that I'm going to tell you, I was not a doctor. and finding out this lady's name was significantly harder. I'll tell you why. But I've always found that finding out somebody's name just makes like it way more personal, you know? They're much more willing to engage with you if you're seeing them on a personal level rather than just like someone who's shouting at them or getting shouted at by them. Finding common ground, well, that might be that you have a similar interest, you live in a similar place, you're annoyed by similar things. For example, in this situation, the man was annoyed about the hospital and I was like, yeah, me too. Like, it annoys me. It's underfunded, it's shit, I'm sorry. Now, something good happened with this guy that I can't say happened with the second lady. This guy just became more receptive to me and actually we worked out our differences. Now, the one thing that I did to shut down this man's anger was I did all of those things to start with, but then he continued to have a go at me. I was like, no, you've argued, you've vented, now you're just being a dick, right? Now you're just seeing how far you can push it. So I said, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to speak to you any longer. You need to calm down. I didn't say these exact words, but I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to have you speak to me like this because I'll have a chat to you when you've calmed down and I'll come back in a bit, okay? Because I've apologised to you, I've been nice to you, we have resolved our differences, but yet you can still continue to argue or shout at me for no real reason. And actually, me being firm with him and saying, I'm not going to accept your shouting behaviour, shut it down. Now, it was a different story when we talk about the second lady, okay? Unfortunately, none of these tips necessarily worked with her because she was a different kind of angry. She was the kind of angry that there was no negotiating with. And when you get to these kind of people, just leave. Don't even bother. You've tried all of those things and they are not complying with any of it. They are just a dick and they want to make your life difficult, and that is their sole purpose in life. It's okay, right, let me tell you what happened. Oh, it's a bit of a long story. How can I shorten it? Right. I think what didn't help with this lady was that I was getting angry, and I was also upset with myself with the situation because I was like, I recognised that I'd done a wrong, okay? But there was mitigating circumstances. But she didn't believe me, and I was like, stuff you, lady. Anyway, I apologised. This lady outright said, I'm not accepting your apology. Red flag. Tried to find out her name. She would not tell me her name. She actively refused to tell me her name. I was like, why? She was just being difficult. And in those situations, if it's somebody that you don't need to deal with, just leave. If it's somebody that you might need to deal with, again, i.e. they're your neighbour, say, okay, I think the situation is getting a bit heated. Let's both calm down and we'll come and talk about it later. Because when you've got that anger in you, you see red and it's hard to control it. Come back at a later date and you can both have a more civilised conversation. Thank God I'm not going to see this lady again. So let me give you the quick down low. This is like a maybe 70-year-old lady. She says that she's got lots of health problems and she doesn't leave the house. So anyway, I was dog sitting a puppy and was under the impression that she could be left alone. However, she barks a lot. Now, I left the keys at my house by a mistake, had to then drive to and from, and I'm cutting it really short here, but basically she was left alone for too long, which I admitted to. But then this lady was just being an outright dick and would not accept my apology and was saying that I was lying, and I was like, bye, no thanks. Some people are just unreasonable and they literally just want to pick a fight. In that situation, let them be grumpy, let them be angry. I hope that helped anyway. As a person who absorbs a lot of people's emotions, I just think I'm the kind of person who wants to diffuse these situations. So I've learnt a lot of techniques over my 5 years of being a doctor and my 5 years prior to that of medical school. You deal with a lot of angry people. I think if you take anything from this, it's if things aren't going well, take a pause, come back later. There's no point in carrying on and just digging yourself both into a deeper and deeper hole. Anyway, see you tomorrow.